Let's see, where do you start with a God story when God has always been with you? Do you start here? Do you start here? Do you start here? But let me just begin by saying that I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the grace of God and the healing power of God. I've been told on several occasions by medical professionals I shouldn't be alive, but God knew differently. And so I want to give him all the glory, all the spotlight. He's got more for me to do. He's got more for me to be. And so I just want to start by saying all glory to God. Also, I know that my story has some unique details to it, but we are all going through something, every single one of us. And sometimes when you get to hear about what other people are going through, it helps you go through whatever you are. And yeah, so let me just back up a minute. 2022, I was all set to have some ankle surgery, ankle fusion surgery. You know, my soccer playing days from way back in the day, and then the ones that were probably too recent, and the hiking and whatnot, all caught up to me, and it was time to clean up my ankle, fuse it together, and I asked God to heal me from this. And so I called the elders together, as James instructs us to do, and they laid their hands on me and prayed over me. And then when they were done, nothing happened. And so I thought, okay, God, I know you can heal. I know I've done what you've told me to do. And then I began to realize that God was not going to heal me through an event, but rather he was going to take me on a process and on a journey. And so that journey led me to go meet with orthopedic surgeons and schedule surgery, to have my ankle fixed up so I can keep up with everybody else around here. So that surgery was scheduled and it got rescheduled due to the doctor's schedule. Then it got rescheduled again in January of this year. Due to another medical situation, not a big deal, but he said, no, wait. And Donna and I were scheduled to go to Maui. And he says, go to Maui, have a good time, come back, and I'll fix your ankle in April. So in April, it was time to do all the pre-op stuff. And so I had to see this doctor. And I went to my primary care physician, and lo and behold, the poor guy had a medical emergency of his own and was out on medical leave. So in order for them to fill out the paperwork, I had to see his partner in his practice. And I'd never seen her before, and she didn't know me. And I had been diagnosed with acid reflux. I know it sounds gross, but maybe you have it. A lot of people have it. And it's also known as heartburn. So it mimics, heart issues. And she's saying to me, you know what? I don't know if that's really acid reflux. I cannot sign off on your paperwork until you see a cardiologist. I'm like, a cardiologist? My surgery's in 3 weeks. She goes, let's see what we can do. Well, little did I know that they were calling in some favors for me. And I went and saw a cardiologist. And he went and checked me out. And he said, I can't move forward in good conscience without a stress test and an echo. And so I said, all right. He goes, let me see what I can do. And he came back just minutes later and said, my staff said they'll come in on their lunch hour and squeeze you in. And so I said, all right. And so I came back the next week, and now the clock is ticking, getting close to my surgery date, and do the stress test and the echo. And then he's like, it's probably nothing, but I really can't sign off on this unless you have a heart catheterization. And I said, sign me up. And he's like, really? Because I usually have to beg men to have this done. I go, no, I want this ankle surgery. I've got plans, God's going to heal me. I'm saying stuff like this right to him. He's like, all right, let me see what I can do. And he texted his colleague and set it up. And lo and behold, just 5 days before my ankle surgery, I was going in for a heart cath, which was probably not going to be anything. And when I went in, they tell you to pack a bag just in case they have to fix something up, because you might need to stay overnight. And sure enough, I had 2 blockages and had some stents put in. And of course, my surgery was delayed again. In fact, the doctor came out and said to my wife, said to Donna, if he would have had his ankle surgery, I'm 100% sure he would have died on the table. And I was like, well, good thing we had it then, right? And then I was thinking, I don't want to see this orthopedic guy, having to pull up on YouTube how to work the paddles, clear, where do these go? But at any rate, I was grateful and was cruising right along and getting healthier. And I had already determined that I was going to do my part to join God in making me healthier by losing some weight. And so things were going right along. And now I'm fast forward into September, and I'm completing all this cardiac rehab, 36 sessions, and they're like, it's time for your stress test and echo so we can get that ankle surgery for you again. And so here I go in, and the cardiologist says to me, hey, are you feeling okay? I go, yeah, I do this all the time at cardiac rehab. He's like, okay. And he and the nurse are like whispering. That's never good, right? When the medical professionals start whispering to each other, and then he says, okay, you can stop. Your valve is not working. Yeah, we fixed the other issue. I said, what do you mean my valve's not working? You told me my valve was fine 5 months ago. He says, well, it's not fine anymore. It's not working. So he sent me to a heart specialist that has this procedure that is less invasive than just a full open heart surgery. And that's when I found out in late September, I got to have open heart surgery. And I was like, God, what are you doing? Where? I don't understand this. I just asked you to heal my ankle. And then I'm realizing it's my ankle issue that he has used to save my life. Not once, but twice. And like I said, we're all going through something, but I also take comfort and have peace and calm in the fact of knowing that even though we're all going through something, that God is always up to something, even when it doesn't seem like it. I think about when Jesus said in John chapter 5, my Father is always at work all around us, and so am I. I mean, he's always at work. God is busy, and he's busy in our lives, even when we don't feel like he is. Even when we're looking for him and he's just like really quiet, and it's frustrating sometimes, isn't it? I think about Job in Job 23, verses 8 through 10. Job's like, he's had enough. He's like, God, where are you? And he's saying, God, I'm looking for you. I'm looking to the north. I'm looking to the south. I'm looking to the east. I'm looking to the west. It's basically, where are you, God? And it says, and I catch no glimpse of him. But then in verse 10 of Job 23, it's almost like he goes, oh my goodness. But he knows the way that I take. He knows the way that I take. And when he has tried me and when he has tested me, I'm going to come forth as gold. So God is always at work, even though we don't always feel it. And God was very much at work for me, because when I went in for this minimally invasive procedure, they said there's one test we got to do before that. And so they did this test and met with me like 2 hours later and said, you're not going to be able to have this procedure because we found a large aortic aneurysm in addition to you needing an aortic valve replacement. So talk about a shock to the system. Then I realized there was going to be nothing minimally invasive about it, or less invasive. It was going to be full north to south. Hey, you want to see my scar? But it was during that time that I realized God was doing something real serious with me. And they sent me home, and they would have done the procedure probably the next day if I hadn't been on blood thinners from that other thing I already told you about. And they basically sent me home and said, be real careful, basically try to stay alive until we can cut you open. And God did. There was a lot of thought, a lot of prayer, a lot of considering my life during those few days between that doctor's visit and the actual surgery. So on my dad's birthday, October 18th, I went in for open heart surgery, and it was a BOGO. It was buy one, get one free. They fixed the aneurysm and they fixed the valve and replaced that. 5 days in the ICU, then 12 hours in a step-down unit, and then boom, I was home. So it's been a journey to be home. A lot of time alone. I've been going on my walks, and just this week I've started cardiac rehab again. Starting me slow and then building me up, and that'll continue into the spring. So I know that you're going through something, because everybody's going through something, but I also know that God is always up to something. And in my life, I wanted an event. I wanted God to go, look at this, and boom, and I'll have a testimony for the instantaneous healing. And God's like, nope. He goes, I want you to get closer to me. I just want to be with you. Because when you're healing from something like this, I found out that there's really nothing I can do to speed it up. Now, there's some things I can do to slow it down, some errors I can make, but nothing to really speed it up. It's a slow process. And God is bringing me back, and I'm super excited to be able to return to my ministry post in the new year. I think January 2024 is going to just be a turning of the page for me, and probably for you as well. And our ministry year theme is Come Home. It's funny, Come Home. I was so excited about this theme, and I love being a shepherd at our Bridgeway Owings Mills Reisterstown campus and helping people feel at home. And then he sent me home. He sent me home to be by myself. But I will say this, that even though we're all going through something, and even though God is always up to something, I believe that with God, we can get through anything. And I'm going to say with God and each other, we can get through anything, because God uses people. And I want to thank all of you who have reached out to me, texted me, have said, hey, I don't want to bother you, but hey, it wasn't a bother. And I want to say we need to look out for each other. We need to care for each other. Our Love in Action ministry brought meals to us while Donna was working full time with these outreach events, and I got grandkids, and kids in the area, and then I'm at home trying to heal, and just it could be a lonely walk, but with God and His presence and His Word, and through prayer, but also through those text messages and cards and phone calls. Wow, what a difference that made. And I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you, especially, and it's hard because you start listening to somebody and then there's other people, and I don't mean to leave anybody out, but I especially want to thank our senior pastor and our COO, Frank Eastham, for caring for me and directing me and encouraging me to really lean into this time off to heal so that I can come back strong. And I also really want to thank my family, who jumped on planes from all over the country. And when they started doing that, I thought, okay, there must be something going on here. And but most of all, I want to thank my wife, who didn't sign up for this, and has been just an amazing godsend through all of it. So I don't know what you're going through. I know you're going through something, though. But I can tell you this, that God is always up to something. He is always up to something. And in Hebrews chapter 13, it says something along these lines, that God is equipping each of us for His good will, and He brings things into our lives for His good pleasure. So we're all the basic package, that God creates, and then He brings these things into our lives to customize us, to care for us, and to create us into who He wants us to be, to maximize our potential. So I'm alive and grateful. It's great to be alive, and I'm really glad that God is always up to something.